Well, welcome to our discussion on the book, The Songs of Solomon. If you're not familiar with these, this you're going to be going like, "What? Really? This is in the Bible? What? Are you kidding me?" So they're different. This is weird. Okay. Now, a couple things to understand here from an LDS perspective. When Joseph Smith, okay, when he was going through the Bible after he had done the Book of Mormon, had done that translation, worked on that, he at some point said, "Hey, I feel like I need to go through the Bible. I need to use my gift of understanding the revelations from God and go through the Bible to help improve it, to help improve and correct some things in it." And they used a Bible and they went through and made footnotes and things in there. And that's what today we know this is the Joseph Smith translation. Okay, there's lots of excerpts in the footnotes about it. Some of them are in like the book of Moses. It's in the Prototype Price. Joseph Smith Matthews over there too. There's an index with the Joseph Smith translation. But as they were going through, sometimes he would correct words, sometimes he would add whole pieces in. When he got to the Song of Solomon, all that was written in the margin was the Songs of Solomon are not inspired writings. And that was it. And they moved on. They didn't correct anything else in this book. So there's a couple things to understand about this book. Okay, just like with the Ecclesiastes, this was finally decided on as something worth putting in Scripture around 90 CE or 90 AD. All right, so well after the Savior's death, about the time when most of the New Testament was being written, they finally said, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's add the Songs of Solomon in." Now, because of the first verse, it says the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. That's why they call this the Song of Solomon's. Now, the reality is outside of verse 1, there is no indication that Solomon actually wrote these. Granted, he did have a lot of wives. And so it is pretty plausible that he could have written the Songs of Solomon. The whole thing of the Songs of Solomon is these are a series of love letters written between a man and a woman. Okay, so we could think of this as Solomon and one of his wives, one of the women in his harem or his kingdom, that is going back and forth. This actually is really interesting because you think this is just a man writing love notes to his girlfriend or his bride, but this is actually more about the woman's perspective. I've realized this is really fascinating that there is a woman. This is a whole narrative about a woman who has someone she desperately loves. She has a man that she desperately loves and wants to be with, but she can't be with him all the time. And there is a king that is shown in here that loves her and wants to marry her. So here's the challenge from a literal standpoint or understanding standpoint of Songs of Solomon is depending upon how you read the Songs of Solomon, it could be read as if she is in love with this king, he is her love, and this is between the two of them as they come together. Some people have looked at this and said, well, there's another perspective you could take on this, and said that she is in love with a shepherd, but there is a king that loves her, and she's caught in between. I love this man over here, but this man is in love with me, and he's got fame and fortune and wealth and all this, and this dude's a shepherd. So it's kind of there's a little bit of back and forth in there. So you could see this as she's kind of in between these two loves, which is an interesting thought to think about. And it could be that it's just a husband and wife, a man and a woman who are in love with each other but can't be together all the time, basically. So as we go through this, think about those both perspectives, and you can write in the comments as after we're done what you think. Now there are 8 chapters to the Songs of Solomon, but the challenge is this should be one long narrative. So I'm going to actually just read it all through. We're doing one video for the whole book of Songs of Solomon. I wasn't even going to do this. I was just going to do an intro to the Songs of Solomon and then bypass it. But the more I looked into the stories that are here, the more I think it's interesting to look at. Now, again, you might be thinking these are love letters. I mean, they talk about physical features of each other. more specifically, the man talking about the more feminine features of this woman he's in love with. And you might think, why is that in the Bible? That's just weird. And it's here. It's here basically. Joseph Smith says it's not inspired writings. So you might say, well, why don't we just tear it out and get rid of it? Well, there might be some value in this. Just because it doesn't come across as inspired writings, it's not a revelation from God, doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have lessons for us. In fact, it's interesting when you look at this. I believe it was Joseph Smith. So this is something interesting. Even though Joseph Smith said that the Songs of Solomon are not inspired, he quoted from the Songs of Solomon in the dedication of the Kirtland Temple. He actually did. He pulled some in here. This is something to think about, okay? Now, also with this, there is a lot of metaphor. I think this is one of the reasons why scholars haven't just excerpted this out and gotten rid of it over time. Is if you think back, well, we're going to see if you think forward, not think back, but if you've read Isaiah, you read Jeremiah, you understand your Old Testament and your Book of Mormon, Latter-day stuff, you realize that this concept of a marriage, a relationship between a man and a woman in marriage, is a very commonly used metaphor for the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the covenant, basically. We see this in Isaiah, where they make the covenant, the bride and the groom coming together. It's wonderful, the party, the celebration. We see in Jeremiah that the bride was unfaithful and the covenant falls apart. And we see the latter days, the gathering of Israel, the last days is the renewing of this covenant. So you could look at this whole section as a metaphor of God's love for his people, his relationship with his people. And the people could be this, you could look at it from the standpoint of this bride who loves the world, but also wants to love God. We could look at this from this relationship, this dynamic between the two of them, basically as well. So we want to think about this not so much literally, but metaphorically. Because of that. In fact, Jared Halverson said, what if this book is allegorical? What if these love letters between a husband and wife shows us an idea of how God loves his people? Some of it is specific between a husband and wife, but in general, the ideas can be seen between God and Israel. So that's what he said in his podcast, Unshaken. So there are some things in here you're going, okay, God's not going to describe Israel by talking about physical feminine features. That's just weird. So some things are more specific love letters between a man and a woman. But when you think in conceptual ideas, there are some truths we can learn, some ideas we can pull into. So that's why we're going to actually do a video on this. Now, if you want to see a more literal side of the Songs of Solomon, there is a great music video that was put out a couple of decades ago by a great Christian comedian by the name of Mark Lowry. He did a music video based upon the Songs of Solomon, and it's rather entertaining to watch. So I'll put a link in the description for that video, so you can go watch Mark Lowry's video. It's hilarious. Leave in the comments. Come back, leave in the comments here what you thought about his music video, and then let's go through this. I'm going to do this in one video, and then I just want you to think about these metaphors and these ideas. I'm not going to stop and comment on a lot of stuff. Just read through it. So pay attention and enjoy it, and leave in the comments, do you think that there's something here for us to learn spiritually? Do you think there's lessons for us that we can gain from the Songs of Solomon? I look forward to reading those comments. So let's get started. All right, so this is chapter 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. So this is the woman speaking now. Because of the savor of thy good ointments, thy name is as ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee. Draw me, we will run after thee. The king hath brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine. The upright love thee. I am black, but comely. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. they made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Tell me, O thou whom my soul loveth, where thou feedest, where thou makest thy flock to rest at noon. This is the shepherd idea. For why should I be as one that turneth aside by the flocks of thy companions? If thou know not, O thou fairest among women, go thy way forth by thy footsteps of the flock, and feed thy kids beside the shepherd's tents. I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Thy cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. We will make thee borders of gold with studs of silver. While the king sitteth at his table, my spikenard sendeth forth the smell thereof. A bundle of myrrh is my well-beloved unto me. He shall lie all night betwixt my breasts. My beloved is unto me as a cluster of camphor in the vineyards of En-gedi. Behold, thou art fair, my love, behold, thou art fair, thou hast dove's eyes. Behold, thou art fair, my beloved, yea, pleasant, also our bed is green. The beams of our house are cedar, and our rafters of fir. Chapter 2. I am the rose of Sharon, and the lily of the valleys. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Stay me with flagons, comfort me with apples, for I am sick of love. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand doth embrace me. I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes, and by the hinds of the field, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love, till he please. The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a roe or a young hart. That's like a gazelle. A roe or a young hart is a gazelle or a fawn. Behold, he standeth behind our wall. He looketh forth at the windows, showing himself through the lattice. My beloved spake and said unto me, Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. So this is her love speaking to her, basically. The flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. O my dove, that art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs, let me see thy countenance, let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. Take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies. Until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be thou like the roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bether. So chapter 3, By night on my bed I sought him whom my soul loveth. I sought him, but I found him not. I will rise now and go about the city in the streets. In the broad ways I will seek him whom my soul loveth. I sought him, but I found him not. The watchmen that go about the city found me. To whom, I said, saw ye him whom my soul loveth? It was but a little that I passed from them, but I found him whom my soul loveth. I held him, and would not let him go, until I had brought him into my mother's house, and into the chamber of her that conceived me. I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the field, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love till he please. Who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchant? Behold his bed, which is Solomon's. 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel. They all hold swords, being expert in war. Every man hath his sword upon his thigh, because of fear in the night. King Solomon made himself a chariot of the wood of Lebanon. He made the pillars thereof silver, the bottom thereof gold, the covering of it purple, the midst thereof being paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem. Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals, and in the day of the gladness of his heart. Chapter 4. Behold, thou art fair, my love, behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks. Thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead. So this is the man giving a letter, writing a letter to his to the woman, basically. Thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which came up from the washing, whereof every one bare twins, and none is barren among them. Thy lips are like a thread of scarlet, thy speech is comely. Thy temples are like a piece of pomegranate within thy locks. Thy neck is like a tower of David builded for an armory, whereon there hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. Thy two breasts are like two young roes that are twins, which feed among the lilies. Until the day break and the shadows flee away, I will get me to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. Thou art all fair, my love, there is no spot in thee. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse, with me from Lebanon. Look from the top of Amana, from the top of Shenir and Hermon, from the lions' dens and from the mountains of the leopards. Thou hast ravished my heart, my sister, my spouse. Now that's not meaning they're related. That means a term of endearment, basically, like being, a tenderness among them. Thou hast ravished my heart with one of thine eyes, with one chain of thy neck. How fair is thy love, my sister, my spouse! How much better is thy love than wine, and the smell of thine ointments than all spices. Thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under thy tongue, and the smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Thy plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits, camphor and spikenard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with all trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes, with all the chief spices. A fountain of gardens, a well of living waters, and streams from Lebanon. Awake, O north wind, and come, thou south. Blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden, and eat his pleasant fruits. So how would you like to be described that way, ladies? Look forward to hearing your comments on that one. Well, now chapter 5. I am come into my garden, my sister, my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. Eat, O friends, drink, yea, drink abundantly, O beloved. I sleep, but my heart waketh. It is the voice of my beloved that knocketh, saying, Open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my undefiled. For my head is filled with dew, and my locks with the drops of the night. So this, just so you know, the man finished up that last verse, and now in verse 2, it's her imagining him coming to get her, basically. She says in verse 3, I have put off my coat, how shall I put it on? I have washed my feet, how shall I defile them? My beloved put in his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh, and my fingers with sweet-smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had withdrawn himself and was gone. My soul failed when he spake. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen that went about the city found me. They smote me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if ye find my beloved, that ye tell him, I am sick of love. So this is like a dream that she's having, basically. What is thy beloved more than another beloved? O thou fairest among women? What is thy beloved more than another beloved, that thou dost so charge us? My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. His head is as the most fine gold, his locks are bushy and black as a raven. His eyes are as the eyes of doves by the rivers of waters, washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are as a bed of spices, as sweet flowers. His lips like lilies, dropping sweet-smelling myrrh. His hands are as gold rings set with the beryl. His belly is as bright ivory overlaid with sapphires. His legs are as pillars of marble set upon sockets of fine gold. His countenance is as Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet, yea, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. So chapter 6. Whither is thy beloved gone, O thou fairest among women? Whither is thy beloved turned aside, that we may seek him with thee? My beloved is gone down into his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed in the gardens and to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feedeth among the lilies. Now this is switching to the man here. Thou art beautiful, O my love, as Tirzah, comely as Jerusalem, terrible as an army with banners. Turn away thine eyes from me, for they have overcome me. Thy thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Gilead. Thy teeth are as a flock of sheep which go up from the washing, whereof every one beareth twins, and there is not one barren among them. As a piece of a pomegranate are thy temples within thy locks. There are 80 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. My dove, my undefiled, is but one. She is the only one of her mother. She is the choice one of her that bare her. The daughter saw her and blessed her. Yea, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. Who is she that looketh forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners? I went down into the garden of nuts to see the fruits of the valley, and to see whether the vine flourished and the pomegranates budded. Or ever I was aware, my soul made me like the chariots of Aminadab. Return, return, O Shulamite. Return, return, that we may look upon thee. What will ye see in the Shulamite? As it were the company of 2 armies. And that's getting into some Jewish history. If you look back in, I think it's in Kings, they talk about that one. So chapter 7. How beautiful are thy feet with shoes, O prince's daughter! The joints of thy thighs are like jewels, the work of the hands of a cunning workman. Thy navel is like a round goblet which wanteth not liquor. Thy belly is like an heap of wheat set about with lilies. Thy 2 breasts are like 2 young roes that are twins. Thy neck is as a tower of ivory. Thine eyes like the fish pools of Heshbon, by the gate of Bath Rabbim. Thy nose is as the tower of Lebanon, which looketh toward Damascus. Thine head upon thee is like Carmel, and the hair of thine head like purple. The king is held in the galleries. How fair and how pleasant art thou, O love, for delights! This thy stature is like to a palm tree, and thy breasts to clusters of grapes. I said, I will go up to the palm tree, I will take hold of the boughs thereof. Now also thy breasts shall be as clusters of the vine, the smell of thy nose like apples, the roof of thy mouth like the best wine for my beloved, that goeth down sweetly, causing the lips of those that are asleep to speak. So this is now the woman's response. I am my beloved's, and his desire is toward me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth into the field, let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards, let us see if the vine flourish, whether the tender grape appear, and the pomegranates bud forth. There will I give thee my loves. The mandrakes give a smell, and at our gates are all manner of pleasant fruits, new and old, which I have laid up for thee, O my beloved. Chapter 8. O that thou art as my O that thou wert as my brother, that sucked the breasts of my mother. When I should find thee without, I would kiss thee, yea, I should not be despised. I would lead thee and bring thee into my mother's house, who would instruct me. I would cause thee to drink the spiced wine of the juice of my pomegranate. His left hand should be under my head, and his right hand should embrace me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love until he please. Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I raised thee up under the apple tree. There thy mother brought thee forth. There she brought thee forth that bare thee. Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm. For love is strong as death, jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which hath a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. If a man would give all the substance of his house for love, it would utterly be contemned. We have a little sister, and she hath no breasts. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she shall be spoken for? If she shall be a wall, we will build upon her a palace of silver, and if she be a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor. Solomon had a vineyard at Baal Hamon. He let out the vineyard unto keepers. Every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. Thou, O Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that keep the fruit thereof 200. Thou that dwellest in the gardens, the companions hearken to thy voice. Cause me to hear it. Make haste, my beloved, and be thou like to a roe, or to a young hart upon the mountains of spices. So that is the book of the Songs of Solomon, basically the whole thing pulled together. So I'm looking forward to your comments on this. Do you hear the two metaphors? Do you hear where it could be two men that she's in between? Can you also hear where it's maybe just one man, the king that she is in love with? What are the metaphors or thoughts you get of the relationship with God and Israel that you learn from this? So I'm looking forward to reading your comments on this, to see your opinions and thoughts on the Songs of Solomon as well. So thanks for watching. We hope you've enjoyed it. This one's probably been a little comical to read and go through. Not kind of stuff you'd think you'd read in the Bible, but it is there. So kind of fits with some of the other stories from the Old Testament, honestly. But now we get to jump into some heavy-hitting material next time as we get into the book of Isaiah. We're moving out of the section of the Old Testament that is the poetry section, the literature section. Now we're getting into this prophets section, where we get more of the teachings of the prophets, a little bit more of the heavier, meatier stuff that we hear quoted often out of the Old Testament. So we'll see you then.